4. Go, 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 go!
Nice. Very nice. Front to back. Leader's garment. Quite happy.
It's alright, isn't it? Looks pretty good in that bad boy.
Excellent, I think the word you're looking for is... Look at that thing. Looks beautiful, done. Beautiful.
Now, only if you're ready for this.
So just kind of off the cuff, when I did the one with George last week, I called the rider chats, but I actually think we should have called this in the hot seat or something along those lines. What do you reckon? Should we move to change the
Mate,
name?
it's your show. You're the...
Yeah, I can see it if you move it.
All right. Yeah, seconded by Charlie Murray. We'll call these in the hot seat because I want to do people that aren't all exactly riders either. So moved by seconded by Charlie Murray. We're going to now call these in the hot seat, which I think makes more sense. So for the inaugural in the hot seat show, we've got none other than Specialized racing team member Charlie Murray joining us. Charlie, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, KB. I was stoked to jump on for a bit of a chat with you guys, and yeah, it sounds weird when you say my name and then Specialized Racing just after, because it's still sinking in. It's been probably 2 years now, but it still sometimes doesn't seem quite real.
No, that's a pretty cool name to have, team name to be going with you on there. Definitely, that's probably every kid growing up's dream to have that title with you, I reckon.
Yeah, especially, definitely when I was growing up, like, you know, see people like Bruni and even Finn Isles, and, you know, he's the same age as me, so not growing up, but just seeing him and being inspired by those guys and their riding, and I'm still inspired by it every year, watching those boys on the downhill circuit.
I was going to say, Jesus, you were watching them when you were growing up. I was watching people like Sean Palmer and stuff on Specialized. So
I saw Sam Hill, I think, on Specialized, but I didn't really watch downhill back then.
Jesus on a downhill bike right there. There was some champagne Sam Hill around.
They had
there.
a really long hiatus
speaking
off.
of,
It was like Palmer and then no one, and then Hill pretty much.
disappeared for a long time.
They went free ride.
Joining us now, Red Dog. I was going to introduce him just before, and then he got up and walked off, and then he came back. So Red Dog's joining us again this show. You know, we've got some loyal Red Dog fans out there, I reckon.
Katie's
I'm a Clifford fan.
A pretty big Red Dog fan, so I think she's the only one.
Yeah, it's because you like cricket. That's what her big disappointment in me is I don't like cricket. So that's another topic though. But so the first time it's funny because I'm looking at results on my screen in front of me and it says Charles Murray, and I just don't ever really think of you as Charles. It seems real weird to see that name on there.
Proper, isn't it? I mean, the King Charles now, isn't it?
Yeah. It sounds,
So you can just call me Your Majesty if you want.
All right, I'll call you King Charles. So the first time me and Red Dog just had to quickly discuss this before we came across you was the NZ Enduro 2018, and we were walking our way up to the top of the first stage, and it's a real grind in Whites Bay.
Oh, and I know the one. Yeah.
Pretty much everyone's walking, and then this kid just comes pedaling past us, and I'm like, who the fuck is that guy? Like, he needs to calm down because there's a fair bit to go here still. And you're just like, hey guys, how's it going? Like, just real stoked and pedaled off. And I had no idea who you were. And it took until, I think it was later in that race that we actually worked out that you were Charlie Murray, and turned out we actually knew who your mum was, and things started all clicking into place. But that was probably pretty early in your getting into the mountain bike racing side of things, I'd imagine.
Yeah, that was one of my first races. I remember entering it, and I could only enter the amateur category or something because I hadn't done enough races or whatever. And then I showed up at the start line and talked to Sven and Anka, and I was like, "Oh, can I enter the pro category? Because I don't want to sandbag the amateur." And they were like, "Oh, but you're a bit of a kook. Like you are an amateur." and they're like, "Well, what races have you done?" And I was like, "Oh, I've done one or two races. I did the Trans NZ." And they're like, "Oh, well, how'd you go?" I was like, "Oh, it went pretty well. Like, you know, had a few mechanicals and crashes as you do when you're a bit of a kook, but I managed to beat Jerome Clements in a couple of stages. And they were like, "You what?" And then they put me straight into the pro. And I don't know where I finished up in that race, but yeah, it was like trying to talk my way into the pro category. It's quite funny.
That's good. That's a good start. Just talking your way into the pro category. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you got to talk the talk and then walk the walk.
Yeah, fake it till you make it. It's basically how I live my life.
Yeah. So my first race. Sorry, Red Dog, you go ahead.
Exact moment, like I'm pretty sure we were pushing, and it was kind of hot,
We were.
and like this youngster just rips past, and I'm pretty sure you're on that Scott, and I'm pretty sure it squeaked real bad or like made this heinous noise.
Oh, it was a dusty.
Yeah, and I was just
dusty
like,
bike.
Pretty sure you were wearing like board shorts as well.
He just looked, like fresh. And he just comes past us
Bundy.
like there's no, like it's not an issue, and we're pretty cooked because we're old by this point.
It's just a bit of fire road.
And I remember saying to KB, I think I was like, "Who the fuck's this guy? He needs to calm down." And yeah, just probably went on to definitely smoke me. So not a bad start.
Yeah. I didn't have a great track record at that. Well, the 2 times I did that race, I'm sure you probably smoked me as well.
Yeah, I still remember. I don't know what year it was, but you had some. Was it a crash or a big mechanical, and you had to walk heaps or something?
The 2019 one, I had a big crash on the first day and smoked my hip, and that was all she wrote for that race. I went home after that because I couldn't walk properly.
Oh, right.
That was the one that was really wet, and it's probably a good thing I did go home.
Yeah, I think I did that one too, but we couldn't do the helicopter because it was too wet.
Yeah, that was a pretty grim one. I think it finished at the Leovs, didn't it, at Gentry that year?
Yeah, I did that one. I actually had a broken hand that race. So I remember taking a few codeine or some painkillers, whatever it was, and trying to ride the same climb that I would have been riding when you first met me or when you first saw me.
Give it a nudge.
And my heart was just beating so fast because the painkillers, for some reason, it was just beating way faster. And I was like, "Nah, this is not right." So I had to pull over and walk. So yeah, didn't make it up the climb clean the second year.
Nah. Call the drug testing people on that one. That sounds suspicious.
Yeah, it does sound suspicious. Yeah.
So you went over. So 2018, you dived into it. You dove in pretty deep. You went over. I see there's some Enduro World Series races were taken part of.
Yeah. So it's funny. Yeah, funny how it came about. Actually, my girlfriend was working at Bike Otago with Kashi.
Yeah.
From Yeti, New Zealand, and he was running this local Three Peaks race in Dunedin. And she said, "Oh, come down and visit me for the weekend, and you may as well do this race while you're here," because she had to help organize it or whatever. So I was like, "All right, sounds good." So she entered me, and she was talking to Kashi, and same thing. She was trying to put me because I still knew a few people in the sport through my cross country days and through Mum. Obviously, was involved with organizing races and things like that. So I knew quite a few people in the sport, like the Oliver brothers and people like that.
Yeah.
And I think maybe Anton was doing it that year. So I was like, "Oh, can I ride with these guys?" And she asked Kashi if I could ride in wave 1 with, the Olivers and Anton. And Kashi said, "Oh, I'm not sure about that. He hasn't done any racing before. I don't know if we can let him in wave 1. So I think I just had to start with, with the rest of the kooks. And well, I was the biggest kook there, but yeah, I just had to start kind of mid-pack, and then so that was my first proper enduro race, and it went quite well. And Kashi was really impressed with my riding, and Tom Bradshaw was there, and it was hard. So then he said, "Hey, why don't you come along to the next race that we're organising, which was Trans NZ?" So I went there, and Bradshaw at that point had broken his shoulder, and he had entered the South American EWSs, and had entries and travel and everything sorted to go there. So then he had a broken shoulder, and he was like, "Oh, well, you may as well take my spot." So we emailed Natalie. I don't know if you guys know Natalie from the EWS, but she's
incredible.
Legend. Yeah. So she just wiped Tom Bradshaw from the system. Good riddance.
It's probably the best thing she could have done.
best thing she's ever done. Wiped Tom Bradshaw from the system. Put my name in, and I just took his like accommodation and travel and things like that, and just went in his place.
I think he's actually
And
told me that story before. That's pretty awesome. You just got straight into it like that.
so I didn't have to do any qualifying or anything. This was before the UCI was involved, so it was a bit more relaxed. And then showed up in Chile with absolutely no clue what I was doing on an XC bike, well, a trail bike. They're Scott Genius with like Fox 34s. And someone before I went there said to me, "Oh, make sure you have downhill tires because it's super rough." So I was like, "Oh, sweet, I'll get downhill tires." So I went to the bike shop and I was browsing around and I saw this tire on the wall and it said DHF. And I was like, "Oh, mint, I'll get that." So I got a Minion DHF, and then there was another tire that said DHR or whatever, got that as well. Put them on my bike, rocked up to Chile, and someone's like, "Bro, I can't believe you came here with EXO tires." And I'd bought Minion DHF in EXO casing.
Oh man,
young players.
that's
Eh?
fantastic.
Yeah, man, they don't name them properly,
That could not have just played out any worse.
And then I proceeded to not get a puncture the whole trip, which was even more shocking.
That's pretty impressive. Didn't you have some terrible mechanical, like didn't you spend the whole day with no back brake or something like that at one of them?
Yeah, so the first stage of my first EWS, first corner of the first stage, I come into the corner, go to pull my brake, nothing there. I just feel this pop in my hand, and I just completely blow the front in the rockiest berm I've ever seen. Crash over the top of the berm, come up bleeding, bike all munted, and then Sven is just next to me saying, "Bro, what are you doing? What are you doing?" And I just crashed right in front of him, and he's like, "Who is this guy?" And it's because on the liaison, I had like external cables that went under the bottom bracket, and a stone had come up and pinched the brake cable between the bottom bracket, the hose between the bottom bracket, and all the oil would come out.
Oh fuck.
So my back brake was non-existent. The hose was like 7 and 2.
Holy shit.
And I didn't know what to do. But Sven was just there shouting at me, telling me to keep going. And why was I looking at him? And why was I stopped?
Just like Sven, just shouting at you.
He's like, get back on your bike, get back on your bike. But he didn't realize I only had one brake. So I hopped back on and like was either foot braking or just front braking down that rest of that stage. And then I didn't want to pull out. So I just kept going. And on that race, on that day, we had I think the longest stage we've ever done. It was like 14 Ks in one hit. And something like 1,800 meters vertical down. And I did that with the front brake, and I was basically in tears at the bottom. I was crying pretty much because I came to the bottom and there was all this crowd, and I couldn't ride it because it was too steep. So I was off my bike, running my bike down, and everyone just thought I was like being a pussy for not riding it. So I was in tears at the bottom, and I managed to finish day one, and then I went and saw the Yeti boys, like Polar Bear from Yeti, and he fixed my brake for day 2. So then day 2 was way better.
I'm looking at your results, and it is still fucking impressive. That stage you were just talking about was 27 and a half minutes. Well, that was your time on it. Like, that is so long. And then you can clearly see, like, the first day does not go well. Like, you're 306th on the first stage, which makes sense. 236th, 133rd, which is pretty impressive for only having a front brake. But then day 2, clearly, you're showing your potential with a 49th, a 41st, and a 33rd. So that's that's a pretty incredible. I think a lot of people would not have gone past that first turn. So to make it through those 3 stages is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Oh, that's still one of the hardest things I've ever done, is that 14 kilometer stage with just the front brake. And we know what Chile's like. There's no grip to be found even with both brakes.
That's
So yeah, that was a really quite a horrible experience, quite a horrible introduction to EWS, to be honest.
Yeah, that's incredible. But then you went 48th at the next round, so you obviously rode the next round a lot more consistent, probably with both brakes.
Yeah, I had both brakes. That was great, and it was muddy. And in the mud, like a lot of people kind of just give up. And I was just like, there's no way I'm going to give up. And at some points, I was like running my bike through the mud on the stages. because I'd like screw up, or there's like little climbs that you couldn't get up. But I went and bought a couple of mud tires the night before, and I think they were like XC mud tires, like they were paper thin. But
Not even a good run.
I was like, well,
tires.
yeah, I was like, nah, but I hadn't had a flat yet, so I was still very confident with my line choice, and got through the whole race, no mechanicals, no flat tires or anything, and that was where I met Eddie as well. Was it that race?
That's an impressive start to your Enduro World Series career
Absolutely.
there. That's a great story.
What you'd obviously been
Yeah,
around like bikes and stuff. Like your mum was involved there, and you'd done XC early in your life. Like, what made you jump into enduro then?
Well, yeah, I think it was just like the adventure. Like, it was something new, and just the chance to go to like South America, or a cool new place, was why I went for that trip. I wasn't like, I was going for the experience, and the racing was like just a bonus. But in terms of getting into enduro riding in general, like did cross country since I was little, and just always was on hardtails. But Dad wasn't convinced about downhill because he's a doctor and he's seen heaps of injuries. So he thought it was, I think he thought it was like motocross. He didn't realize that downhill mountain biking and motocross are a little bit different. But anyway, we weren't allowed downhill bikes. So we just had hardtails, my brother and I. But then when we got to be like, 14 or 15, you kind of, there's only so much you can do on a XC hardtail.
Yeah.
And we just lost interest.
Tearing them to pieces.
Yeah, and it's just the geometry doesn't really lend itself to having fun. So we kind of lost interest, and we just started skiing from then on. Like, we skied since we were about 10, but then we just did more and more. And when we were 15 and 16 and older, like, that's all we did was just freeride skiing, and that's what Craig still does full time now. This is skiing.
Yeah, I mean,
but then
you've got a pretty impressively talented. I mean, all three of you, Craig and Fiona and yourself. Like, I remember the Three Peaks Enduro, was it maybe like a couple of years ago, and was it you won and Craig got second? Was he second or third?
I think Craig might have been third. He was second onto the last stage or something. But
it's fucking impressive, because he basically doesn't race bikes at all, and that's not an easy race to go do well at if you don't know it. And then Fiona rips on a bike as well. I'm sure if she wanted to go just dedicate herself to riding bikes, she would be really, really good as well.
Yeah, I think she would be. Yeah, Fee's. I always say that Fee's probably the most talented in the family. It's crazy how quick she can pick up things. But yeah, Craig is also a weapon on a bike, but he's quite sketchy. Like, he's had his fair share of big crashes. But I remember he came and raced his first EWS this year in Petson, and it was a really long stage for the pro stage, like, I don't know, 15 minutes or something like that. And I remember looking at the splits. He had massive crashes, and he had to go to hospital after the stage, but he still made it across the finish line. But then when I looked at some of the splits, like the first split, I think he did the same time as me on it.
Jeez.
Holy. So he's not.
And I think he had like maybe some top 30 splits or something. And I was absolutely blown away. But then he obviously hasn't quite figured out the balance yet of finding the line between crashing and
experiencing technical difficulties, or if it's just me. There seems to be a bit of freezing going on.
Yeah, it is.
I can hear it loud and clear.
All right, maybe it's just me.
Too.
Okay.
Cut that out in post.
That's all right. Well, that's okay. Yeah, we probably won't. I'll probably just leave it in there for the fans. They can listen to it. I'll apologise in advance. But
yeah.
So then, like, 2019, 2020, you obviously do a few more AWSs, but 2020 goes, you have some pretty solid results, obviously enough to the point of, well, geez, you even raced some World Cups in 2020. I forgot about that, and had some pretty solid results in World Cup downhill. So, but yeah, obviously enough to land you, like we discussed a little bit at the start, but I don't think we're actually recording on that bit or not. But the fact that you're riding for, you got to ride with Specialized in 2021. How did that come about? Were you out approaching people, or they come to you, or how did that start?
With Specialized or
Yeah,
the year before. Um,
with
yeah, well,
Specialized, like how did that relationship start?
yeah, well, it's quite funny actually. It all kind of, yeah, it's all interlinked because it's only been a few years. I don't know, 5 years now, probably since since you guys first met me and things like that. So everything kind of links together quite well. But Justin Leov, when we were at that race where you hurt your hip, KB,
We're losing them.
and you had to go home.
We've
That
got some bad
oh,
bad internet going on. I
can you
will
not
actually
hear
have to
me?
do some editing here. It's making my
Can we
life way
pause
more
or
difficult.
It's a bonus
I'll
for
turn off
me
my.
because it means you have to do something. It's quite good.
I don't want to do anything. Hey,
Is
maybe
that
if you've
better?
got your camera off, it might be a bit easier.
Oh,
Hard to tell.
Yeah, it seems to
could
be
we?
better. I've got you're
I've just closed
pretty
my
clear now, at least.
video, so I've just closed the video. I think that
Yeah.
might give it a bit more juice.
That seems better. And if you've got anything else open, can that stuff as well.
Yeah. All right.
Like if you've got any other web pages or anything running, that seems to
just...
to help. No, you sound pretty clear now.
Yeah.
All
right.
All right.
Try and roll with
so
that.
I'll go back into the start there somewhere.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, you had a pretty solid 2019 and 2020. Had some pretty decent results there, and so that obviously led into joining the Specialized team for 2021. But how did that? How did the meeting Specialized guys start out? How did that introduction happen? Or they come to you, or were you out actively chasing a ride? Or
yeah, it's quite funny. Yeah, so I kind of was chasing a ride, but the reason I was because the NZ Enduro in 2019, that really muddy one that we had. I was talking to Justin Leov after it, and he's like, "Oh, you've been going really well. Like you've had some good results, and it looks like you're enjoying the riding." And we're just chatting, and I was chatting about how he, he's an amazing, had some amazing results in his career, and he was like, "Well, you could do that if you wanted. Like, you could be a pro." And I was like, "Oh, really? Like, you think so?" He's like, "Yeah, like, if you just commit to it and try really hard, there's no reason you can't be." And I was like, "Wow, that's weird. That's actually possible." So then, going forward from there, I was thinking like, "Oh well." I was just doing it for fun before that, but I was like, it could actually be a job if I take it a bit more seriously. So that was kind of where it switched for me. And then Sven Martin strikes again. He has contacts everywhere, so you definitely want to be on his good side. And
yeah.
I guess because I was a Kiwi and I did some funny stuff at NZ Enduro and things like that, he was always a bit entertained by me. So he put my name forward to Specialized and a couple of other brands. And there was quite a bit of interest after that 2020 season, which I was actually with Pivot in 2020. Eddie took me under his wing for that year.
That's right. You had a pretty good, you had a sixth at finale, so that's pretty damn solid result there as well.
How did that setup work, Chad?
Yeah, that was the COVID.
Because there was Pivot was obviously involved, but then you were involved with that sort of New Zealand team as well.
Yeah. So I think the year before I was with NZ
Oh, sorry, that was 2019,
which was
yeah.
Brendan Clark. 2019. So yeah, but he also still helped me a bit in 2020. He's really good. He was really good to me, and still is a close friend. And I think he does a really good job of helping that stepping stone for people trying to get out of New Zealand and race internationally. Because coming from New Zealand, you guys know what it's like. It's way harder to get overseas and to race and to have good kit and turn up to the races and have a bed to sleep in and things like that. So he was like amazing at helping out Kiwis, and he was always helping me out from when I first met him, so like 2019 and 2020, he helped me out getting overseas and things like that. And then I just was talking to Eddie, in the off season, and he just said he'd be keen to have me to come along and be like a development rider with the pivot crew. And he convinced Bernard that I'd be a good fit with their team, and they just took me under their wing. And we weren't sure if it was even going to happen because of COVID. But then we went over there at the last minute, and I just tried everything, like any discipline, any race. I just went for it, like with those downhill World Cups, and did crank works and did the e-bike World Champs and things like that. And that's what actually put me on the map with the Specialized guys.
Yeah, I definitely think just dipping your toes into everything like that can be, when you're at that like kind of point of breaking through, it's definitely a good way to, people to see that you're just dedicated and will give anything a go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was the first time I met the Specialized team manager was I did the e-bike World Champs, and I borrowed one of Bernard's e-bikes, but for some reason it had only the 500 amp hour battery instead of the 700. So, but we didn't know that because you can't see; it was all enclosed. Um,
I can see
and
where this is going.
and I only did like one or two practice laps before that. So I didn't know how long it was going to last for. And Bernard's like, yeah, at home, I always ride for at least an hour and a half on turbo and it's fine. And I was like, okay, sweet. So turbo it is. So anyway, start the race. It's so muddy. Have it in full turbo. And sure enough, it runs out like on the second to last lap. And it doesn't just run out, it's like fully dead. It goes into eco for like half a lap and then it just fully dies. So I had to run the entire last lap just pushing the bike. And it was like muddy. You could barely move. But I'd been past the point where they let people out, so they couldn't pull me off the race.
So you can still finish.
So I could go as slow as I wanted, but I could still finish. And the motorbike behind me was just like waiting for me. He must have been so fed up because he literally would just like stop, pull over, have like a 5-minute smoker, go 100 meters, and then he'd catch up to me again. But anyway, so I finished that race and I just had like a massive smile on. All the boys were like, thought it was so funny. They were like clapping me across the line and things like that. And the Specialized manager was watching and he just thought it was the funniest thing ever and like loved that I didn't give up and that I was just, still having fun and being positive even when it was a pretty rough day of bike racing.
I feel like this is a theme for you, that you just don't give up. It seems to be a trend that's showing through, and it obviously has worked for you.
Yeah, it's worked. Hey, yeah, I don't like to give up, especially like when it's equipment failure and things. If you crash, then it's a different story. Like you've got to preserve your body because you've only got one of those, but you can always get a new bike part or whatever. So yeah, I try and keep pushing through.
Yeah, and then didn't you snap a chain or something at the last World e-bike champs?
Yeah, I've
And
done
you
it
ran
3
that
times.
lap as well?
Yeah, so that was the second time I did it last year, and yeah, snapped my chain on the start line, ran a whole lap, and then they pulled me out after the first lap. And yeah, it was quite sad because I was so keen to keep racing, but the leaders were like quite close behind me by then. So they'd basically done 2 laps, and I'd done 1, and they pulled me off. But that was just as hard. So yeah, I spent more time running these e-bike world champs than I have riding them, pretty much.
Seems a bit backwards, but good on you for go until they pull you out.
Yeah. But that also was quite funny. Like, they were, it's so funny because stuff like that's different and out of the ordinary gets quite a lot of attention. And like, there were heaps of videos of people just like cheering me on and loving it. And yeah, you can make something good out of a bad situation like that. I always find.
Yeah, and I reckon like just you saying, you finish that one and you're still like, and the battery went flat and you're still smiling. That stuff is incredible. How far it will go in terms of having a good name around the pits and that sort of thing. It's like if you come back and you throw your bike on the ground, then no one wants to deal with you. But you come back and you've still had a good time. It definitely, people definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. That's the number 1 rule. Never throw your bike. Never throw your toys.
Yeah. If only young me had been able to listen to people when I'd been told that. Probably because it was my parents trying to tell me it. But Yeah, you don't want to listen to your parents.
It's pretty valuable for a company
Yeah.
to have someone as passionate about just being there, like you are, Charlie.
Just having fun
Yeah.
on bikes. I think that's what people are so into these days.
Yeah, I think you're right, Red Dog. Like there's different sides of it, and especially now the sport's getting quite big, and there's a lot going on. There's the social media, there's the racing, and then it's almost doing like a full circle. Like back in the day, I imagine it was your attitude. If you had a good attitude, it would be easier to get a sponsor. And now it's almost come back to that. Like the social media, everyone's doing it, so it's not like a standout thing. And the
Nah.
results, sure, like results are always important, but just being a good character as well, I think is probably underrated.
Yeah, I absolutely, and I think that's like such an important thing too, because people, like even if you're getting, really good results, but you're a shit person, people don't want to have you on the team. So it's like
Yeah.
if they can see someone that they're like, yeah, this will be a good person to have around all season, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely. And there's no hiding. Like,
No.
Like you said, when you're around the pits, everyone knows every little thing about everyone else. There's no hiding. So, yeah, you have to, believe it and act it out too.
So, you've had some pretty good results with Specialized, obviously, since you've been able to. I guess that's probably been the big change is you've probably been able to fully dedicate yourself to the racing side, having the backing of a team like that. Because I imagine you were probably doing some work and that sort of thing in the off season prior to that. But
Yeah,
like 2021, you started out with a 10th and a third at the first two rounds. So like that third, obviously incredible result there. Um, but then you missed some races. So what happened there?
yeah. So that was like a really interesting start to the season. New team and everything. But I must have been feeling. It's quite a long time ago now. So I'm trying to remember, but I must have been feeling quite good at the start of 2021. And I remember doing the first stage, and I was so far off the pace, and I felt like I was riding pretty well, and I couldn't really figure it out. And then it was just like I was riding smooth, and when I was riding smooth, I like wasn't pedaling, and I wasn't like attacking or anything. So I was like, that's weird. So then the next stage, I just was like, all right, I'll just go for it, and I went into the stage like trying to blow corners, like trying to make mistakes almost. And then suddenly my results just started picking up for the rest of the race. And then I ended up winning a stage in that race where I got 10th. It was like really piddly one, so everyone was just giving me shit for being fit and not being skilled, but I'll still take it. A stage win's a stage win.
Oh,
Anyway,
absolutely.
but it did have like a 30-second or maybe even a 1-minute climb in it. So yeah, it was brutal. But then on the last stage, I got a flat tire and rode like probably rode 5 or 6 minutes on the Cushcore.
Holy shit! Because you still had a solid result in that. Like I'm looking at the stage result now, and you were still 13th, which like I'd take a 13th in a stage any day of the week.
Yeah. So yeah, I just was like feeling really good towards the end of that race, and I think the fitness was kind of coming into play. So yeah, and looking at the splits, I was on the top of that stage, like kind of top 5 on those splits, and then obviously in the bottom, lost a bit of time with the flat tire. But the Cushcore was actually ride surprisingly well. So yeah, I was surprised to hold on to 10th in that race after like a slow start and then a flat tire. So then the next race, because that was when we had double headers. They were still trying to figure out things since COVID. So we had a double header. So the next race was basically the same course, and it was like 2 days later. So I was like, oh, okay, let's go. I know I can do this. So then just dropped the hammer on that race and managed to get on the podium.
Yeah, that's an awesome result.
But then like you said, it went a bit south after that. Literally like
an injury or
literally like probably an hour after the podium. I was playing in the pits. We were doing like a little bit of a pit competition. So setting up cones and setting up benches and doing bunny hops and things. And I came down, like pedaled fast down the road and then went to do a stoppie. And I was like doing a stoppie and trying to weave between cones on my front wheel. And I just
I remember seeing video footage of this now that you bring it up.
Yeah, there's definitely some video footage on
I
Instagram.
remember the exact incident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just like was obviously confident, had just had an amazing result, and wasn't thinking, and just like tried to get it a bit too vertical on the front wheel. And next thing I know, I'm just going full over the bars onto the concrete, and like it wasn't like a crazy crash or anything. Like just kind of did a press up on the concrete, but just the angle of my hand, like it just cracked one of the bones in my wrist. Luckily, it wasn't a scaphoid. It like bruised the head of the scaphoid, but the scaphoid wasn't broken or anything.
Oh,
And then
yeah, good save.
one of my bigger arm bones, the head of it was cracked, but it wasn't bad. So yeah, then I had to miss the next 2 rounds. Tried to ride them, like did the shakedown and stuff, but
Yeah.
with one of those wrist braces, like a Mobius wrist brace or something.
Yeah. Still would
But
have
it
been
just wasn't.
pretty painful, though, I imagine.
Yeah, it just wasn't good enough. Like I could ride and I could ride the stages, but I just knew. Yeah, I just wasn't confident and knew I couldn't be quick. And I was like, I don't want to race. I'm going to be slow, because then it just takes you 2 steps backwards.
You had to be feeling, I imagine, extremely gutted straight after that crash. Like, I've just had 2 incredible results starting the season on my new team, and I've just broken my wrist in the pits.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. I didn't even realize it was broken at the time. I was like, that's sore, and I was kind of worried. I was like, this isn't good. And then I was like, I'll see how it is in the morning.
Yeah.
Woke in the morning, it was just
Trying to play it
fully
off.
swollen and really sore. Like, couldn't really even like lift my bag out of the hotel. And I was, yeah, that's when it really sunk in. It was so gutted.
Oh, man.
In a
Can imagine.
I
But
mean,
you still...
in a situation like that,
sorry.
Chaz, do you you're obviously gutted for yourself, but does like the team make any comments around that? Like, I've always wondered if you get hurt doing something dumb, how do the teams react?
Yeah, it's actually a really good question. Oh, it's a hard one. Like, because the team was brand new that year. Well, like it was kind of renewed. So the specialized team stopped for a few years, and then they came back. When they came back, that's when I got on the team. So they just come back into Enduro, and I just got in their first podium. So they were like really happy with me. But then I injured myself doing something stupid. So it kind of balanced out. Like they were frustrated and a bit gutted, but they were also stoked to have me on the team. So it was like actually really lucky that I did have that good result. And I've definitely learned from it. Like I'm way more careful now.
If it was a shit result, they probably wouldn't have been so well balanced.
But then again, like it does come
But
up from time to time, and it is something they sometimes comment on, and they do
around just to remind you.
acknowledge that it was stupid, and I agree with them. But I also like I could have just covered it up and be like, oh, I broke my wrist while I was crashed in one of the stages on race day or something. I could have made up some story about how I did it. But I'm like, that's not me. Like, I'm the sort of person who just loves being around bikes. I'm always going to have a go at something. If people are trying to do nose wheelies or wheelies in the car park, I'm going to join in. And that's how I became. That's how I became a decent rider. Was always picking up the bike and practicing some skills and getting out there and doing it. It's not by sitting on the sidelines and just watching that I got to where I am. So then I just say that to people if they hit me up about it. I'm like, look, I'm not going to change. That's me. I'm owning it. I know it was silly. I've learned from my mistakes, but I'm not going to cover it up. I'm just going to, admit to it and get on with it.
Not the crashing, but like just like you say, like it's pretty on brand for you. Like you can see that you just genuinely enjoy riding bikes. So it's like, why not get in there and do it when everyone else is out there having fun?
Yeah, definitely. So like that's my approach. Like I do stupid things, on my bike and try things that maybe aren't going to work. But that's also like why I have success racing, because I sometimes don't think about the consequences and just do it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But yeah, I'm definitely careful in the pits now. So
so you came back though, and you had a pretty still pretty consistent. Like end of the season, you're pretty much top 20 at all races except for one, and then you finish the final round with a fifth. So like that's a good way to go out at the end of that season for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that was it was really hard actually coming back from that injury. I just like never quite had the carefree approach and like never really felt 100% confident. It was always like a little bit of caution. And you guys know what it's like when you have a race run or a race where you don't even really think, you just do it automatically, and you're not even thinking about crashing as an option. You're just focused on what you're doing. It always works out really well. And I just couldn't really get into that mindset or that frame of mind for a few races in the middle of the season there.
It's kind of hard to break past that stuff sometimes, isn't it? Like just getting that little mental doubt out of your mind and kind of getting comfortable again.
Yeah, I still haven't figured out how to do it, but I think it's just time on the bike too, and also your fitness takes a hit. Like my fitness probably was not able to do much good riding for a couple of, or maybe even a month or something. So, and then you're trying to recover your fitness mid-season, which is always a bit hard.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it was mostly the confidence though, to be honest. And then it kind of came back at Tweed Valley. I guess it was like the last race of the season. I kind of didn't. Well, I cared about the result, but I didn't really think about it or worry about it or anything. I was just like, oh, I'm just here. I'm just gonna get from top to bottom as quick as I can, and didn't think about anyone else. Just focused on my own riding, and wasn't scared for like the first time in a few races. And yeah, then I finished in fifth, and I was so stoked to finish up the season with that.
Yeah, that's a really good way to go out for the year. It definitely would probably put you in a really good frame of mind going into the off season. I imagine, like just you know, I'm a legit guy. You probably feel way more happy to be training and everything because you feel like you're ready to compete again the next season.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's so funny. There's like a balance. If you do really well, then maybe you have less motivation to train. Well, say if you like win.
Yeah,
Well, I don't actually know because I haven't won, but and then if you do like not so well, you also don't really have so much motivation. But it's really good to be like kind of close, like in the top bit of the field, and think, okay, like I can do this, and then you have. It makes me want to get out there and get better.
yeah. When you feel like you don't have a huge you're not a huge gap away from the front, you can kind of just work on that 1% to keep pushing
Yeah,
forwards.
yeah, definitely.
Then
So yeah, that was a good way to come to the off season.
so start of this year, first round back in Olethen, and you had 31st, which I mean, again, I would happily take a 31st all day, but I can't imagine that was a real you weren't super stoked with that, I imagine, after finishing fifth there last year.
Yeah, that was like a really weird one. Like, yeah, like coming in fifth there the year before, and it's literally some of the same stages, same venue, different weather. It was dry instead of wet, but I still thought I could be competitive. And then I just got pretty smoked, to be honest. Like, yeah, always like to be inside the top 30 and even inside the top 20. It's like kind of my goals, at least just to start with. And yeah, oh yeah, I was I was definitely gutted with that one, but it was quite like a rough lead up at the end of the off season. So I think that's probably what it was. But I still thought that I was ready to go, but obviously not.
Yeah, and did you race? You probably raced the stage there that they pulled out. Did you race it before it got closed at that round?
Yeah, I did. So
So
Casper, he crashed, and
yeah,
that's why they closed it. And I think he was like, he must have been a couple of riders behind me.
so
Oh, that's
yeah,
right, because we did the pro stage, and he did well in that. So yeah, he was starting towards the back of the field.
so you raced a whole extra stage at that race as well, which a few people didn't have to. So we'll throw that in there as well.
Yeah, we can throw that in there, but yeah, I don't think it would have mattered either way. Like I just wasn't really like I had, yeah, like I thought I was having a good off season
Then
and like good training. Sorry, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say everything from there though is pretty solid. Like it looks like it clicked again in Petson. Like 10th there, and you were
Yeah,
inside the top 15 the whole rest of the season.
yeah. No, I was really happy with the season, like in general. But yeah, I just wish I could have been where I was at the end of the season earlier on.
Yeah.
And I had like a few difficult ones. Like in Whistler, I was sick. I like had some cold that I got on the plane on the way over there. So then I remember going to the start and being like, I remember waking up in the morning and being like, I think this is gonna be like the first race I've got to pull out of. And then I was like, okay, well, don't think that. Just go to the first stage, try that, see how it goes, and take it one stage at a time. So I was doing that, and I like was struggling to I just was feeling so low on energy going up to the first stage. And then I came down and checked the results, and I like did quite well on the first stage. And I was like, well, that felt like rubbish, but the time's good. So I was like, all right, may as well go into the second stage. Went into the second stage, and
Yeah, because you were
same thing.
you were
Just
pretty
made my
solid.
way
Like
through the.
you
What
had
was
a couple
that?
of good stages, like a couple of inside the top 10 stages there. So that's pretty impressive again for feeling like that.
Yeah, I was so surprised. Like I thought I wasn't gonna be anywhere close, and then so that was like really positive. And then on the last stage, we were riding over these kind of rock slabs, and the riders before me had like dragged gravel onto the slabs. So I came in and just like tapped the front brake, and because there was gravel on top of the rock, it was just like ice, and the front wheel just
Oh,
went.
Man down.
And I was next thing I know, I was like sliding down this rock slab on my elbows. Um, so then lost a little bit of time, like not heaps, but just enough to kind of put me. I don't know if I was 14th or 12th or something there. I can't
13th at
remember.
that round.
13th.
Yep.
So I might have been close to the top 10 if I hadn't had that, but you never know. That's racing. So all in all, I was actually stoked with that result, but like there was a lot going on behind the scenes that like was against my favor.
Yeah, it sounds like a rough day. That's not the sort of race. Like Whistler's not the sort of place you want to turn up to feeling down on
No
energy
way.
either.
Absolutely no way.
It was massive day. Yeah.
That's huge. And then you rounded out the season with a fifth in Crans Montana and a fourth at Ludenville with a stage win again. So man, again, fucking awesome finish to the season.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the end of the season was so good. It's like really interesting, like because obviously that was like my first full season that I hadn't missed a race at this year, and even like last year, just
Yeah,
learning so much about when you actually are in condition, when you're mentally ready to go. And for me, like we went and did, I think like 2 or 3 weeks in Morzine before those last two races. And Tom, my mechanic, and I just rented an apartment, and we're just riding every day, like 1,000 meters vert. Some days I do 2,000 vert climbing, and then we just did like some bike park laps and some other stuff. And then I got to those races, and I was like, all right, I actually feel like a different person. Like I feel ready to go now. And that's kind of what I've been missing the whole season, I think. Just like bike time and bike fitness.
yeah. It's funny that I've had a few people say to me, like, oh, what sort of training should you be doing and that sort of thing. And I'm like, man, for racing enduro, I feel like the best thing you can do when I'm sure there's a lot more specific stuff you want to get into when you're, at the pointy end of the field, but like it's just being on the bike, like just riding and riding
Yeah.
and riding. Because at a race, you're so fatigued and like trying to race these stages. So if you're just going and practicing and doing like massive elevation at Ks, like you can't get much better.
Yeah, you want to actually be like on the last descent of the day when you're going home, you want to be like struggling to ride it because you're so tired from all the climbing and riding you've done already. Like we would go out for like in Morzine, we'd go out for like 4 hours, not take any food, just take water, not any like electrolytes or anything, just plain water. Just go out for 4 hours until you're pretty much bonked, and then you've got to come down the last downhill while you're bonked, and then come home and eat like everything in the house. But that was like my approach, and Tom had to kind of follow me along, much to his dismay. But
He just got dragged into it.
he's like super fit and strong, and really talented rider too. So like having him to train with was so good. Like we'd just battle each other up the climbs, and then on the downhills, I just boost down and he'd try and stay on my wheel. So it was like quite fun for both of us.
That's a good mechanic to have on your side then, when you've got someone that can push you like that.
Yeah, like it always surprises me. Like I think of myself as being pretty fit, and then he'll just be like, just keeping pace with you, just chatting, and I'm like, man, this guy's like seriously strong, but it's so good, like because it's so hard to push yourself. Like you probably know what it's like when you train with someone, or go to like a local club race, you go so much harder.
Yeah. To try and if you try and ride a climb and like push yourself the whole time or something, it's pretty hard to keep yourself going when you don't have someone to chase or to push you.
Yeah.
You kind of end up just having to set your own goals, right? So pushing yourself.
Yeah.
Whether I'll climb this within a certain time or something like that, but it's never quite the same.
No.
Yeah, because it's easier to. You're right. You have to like just try and race the clock, I guess. Eh?
Yeah.
But even when you're racing the clock, I think you don't feel so bad about letting the clock down than you do if you're like actually with someone else.
Yeah, you
Like,
feel
you
way
let the
worse
clock
if someone
down.
just drops you and goes.
Yeah. You can say, oh, like I'm not feeling it today. If you're racing the clock, you're like, oh, I'll try again against the clock tomorrow or whatever. But when you're with someone, they're there right then and now. So you kind of there's no escape.
There's more
no
accountability, I guess. Like
No, there's no hiding. Yeah.
And then just to really put a cherry on the on the top of the cake to finish the season, you went and won a world championship with the Trophy Des Nations. So that's again a real good end to the season. How good was that race?
Yeah, that was like the best race of the season. It was one of the hardest races of the season. Actually,
super fun.
It's just so much fun. Like it's kind of just what you naturally do when you go trail running. Like you just go out lapping with your friends and like following people down, hooting, hollering. Yeah, it's amazing. And we had such a good team. Like Eddie and Walker were great.
Yeah, I could imagine between you and Eddie and Matt Walker, it was like there's probably a fair bit of noise and like hysterics going on too. So it's a pretty good team there.
Yeah, I didn't stop smiling the whole week. Really, so much funny stuff happened. Like when we started, so we got there like a few days early, maybe on Monday or Tuesday, and we were like, okay, let's go out and do like a team kind of practice. Like we'll not practicing the tracks, but we'll run through like our tactics. We'll do a few shakedown laps just to kind of get used to it. And we pulled up at the shuttle drop off, and we borrowed the Specialized van, and Cole was driving us because Cole was injured. And we found like a 6-pack of eggs on the dashboard, and they were just raw eggs. And we're like, oh man. So then Cole was like, all right, I want my athletes to get the energy levels up. Everyone has to have a raw egg. So we all had a raw egg, but Eddie just ate his egg with the shell on.
I saw that. It was on Instagram.
He just put the shell in his mouth and just started chewing a raw egg and swallowed the whole thing. It's like, yeah, you got to really, chew the eggshells well. Otherwise, when they come out the other end, they're a bit sharp.
Not his first rodeo.
And not his first rodeo. And then it got even better. So then we finished our eggs, all three of us. There was still one or two left in the carton. And Cole just thought it'd be funny to crack one on Eddie's head. But because he'd broken his hand, he was throwing with his wrong hand. So he threw this egg, like he thought he was lobbing it, but it ended up being like a full cricket throw to the eye with a raw egg. And the egg didn't break. It hit like the strong end. You know how like if you push it on the strong end, it's quite strong. The strong end hit him in the eye, didn't break, gave him a massive black eye, and then fell on the ground, and he was so angry. He was like swearing at Cole, like, what are you thinking? Like, and Cole was really apologetic and knew like that he'd screwed up. And then, so Eddie's eye like instantly started swelling up, and then he put his goggles on, and it kind of closed half of his eye because of all the swelling. So yeah, it definitely didn't start out like smoothly. And then we got back to the team, to the pits, and I was telling my teammate, I was like, yeah, like we found these raw eggs in the van, and we like did this and ate them and stuff. And then
We've had
she's
technical
like,
difficulties again.
oh, oh, sorry, you still there?
Yep.
Yeah, we got you back again now.
You got your back? Yeah, and
Yep.
she was like, oh, those eggs have been on the dashboard of the van for about a month. And they've just been in the sun for like a month.
Oh, and you guys ate them after they'd just been sitting in there.
Oh,
Yeah, we ate them raw.
that is
Ugh.
grim.
It's like you even made it to race
Yeah,
day.
you just didn't go get the shits. Or
Yeah, I
something?
know. Yeah, none of us got sick. Just Eddie had that black eye.
That's just Eddie though. Like, I mean, him with the black eye just looks pretty normal, I reckon.
Standard.
Yeah, he did actually
Could
look
come
quite
from
good with the black eye.
Could come from anywhere with him, and probably like an egg to the eye wouldn't even be the last thing you'd think of how it would happen.
No.
Yeah, well, everyone was asking him, and he got so sick of telling people. He just was like, yeah, got punched or got hit by a ball or like something, or like a bike
Just made
crash,
up
because
stories.
everyone wanted to see the video as soon as he said he got an egg to the eye, and everyone wanted to have so he got pretty sick of it, I think.
It's amazing.
Yeah, you'd have to explain. You'd have to explain more as to why you got hit with an egg in the eye, and just go round and round.
Yeah, like where did the egg come from? It doesn't really make sense. But yeah, so that was.
No.
But that was like kind of set the week off on gave it some good funny value. There's a bit of comedy early in the week, and then it just
great.
escalated from there. But on our first stage, we thought we'd ridden off the race. We had such a mare on the first stage. When we practiced it, we planned that I would do the first 6 minutes and Eddie would do the next 5 minutes. There was this road that we could switch over on.
Yeah.
And Walker was just going to be behind because he was going to lead the next stage. So it was sweet. It went so well in practice. Like, we were absolutely flying in practice. And then we came to the race and we're like, if we can just do it like practice, we're going to be happy. So we drop in, and I was just going so hard because I had the pressure of the boys behind me. We were really nervous, really excited about just racing together in the whole race. And we knew we had a chance. So yeah, the nerves were high. And I just kept making like mistakes and having to pedal everywhere and kind of blowing up corners and things. And then I finally got into some good flow, and we started to ride well. We were hooking down the middle section, and then came around a corner and just couldn't make the corner, straight into a tree. Smoked myself, like bounced back off the tree, fell into the track. And then Eddie like clipped the tree behind me, but got past me. And I was like, go, 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 go. Like, I'll catch you up. I'm fine. So they kept going. And then I had to catch them up. So it took like a minute or two to catch them up. So Eddie was leading the part that I was supposed to be riding. So he had no idea where he was going, because he was just used to following me. But he was still going well. So I caught up to them, and just as I caught up to them, I came around a corner, and I just see an orange fork in the trees, like in the top of the trees. And Eddie had caught a pedal, fully exploded, catapulted his bike into a tree. And he was just like groveling kind of down this bank. And me and Walker were like, oh my God, what do we do? But we just kept going because that was the rules we decided on. We're like, if someone crashes, we just have to keep going. So yeah, we kept going, and then we didn't know what happened to Eddie because we never saw him again until the bottom of the stage. But then Walker ended up leading because Eddie was gone. So Eddie, Walker, and myself had all led the part that I was supposed to lead. So they had no idea what they were doing. And then the part that Eddie was supposed to lead, Walker was like quite tired because he did a big effort. So then I ended up leading all of Eddie's part, and Walker was following me, and then Eddie just soloed the rest of the run, like the next 7 minutes, and got within like 10 or 15 seconds of us at the end.
Yes.
So he
Holy
caught
shit!
back up.
Sounds like a road stage.
Yeah, pretty.
Eddie
Yeah, it
going
kind of
solo
is.
and leading out. And now I'm just
Yeah,
looking at the results, and it says stage 1, 41 minutes 35. Is that like everyone's times combined? How does the timing work?
yeah. So I guess we were like 13 and a half minutes each, or 14 minutes each.
Okay, fuck, that's a big stage still.
So that's 3 times combined, and
Yeah.
yeah. But we thought like the race was over, like, and then Eddie's cranks were so bent that they couldn't get past his chain guide, so he had to take his chain guide off
Holy shit.
for the climb, and he broke 2 spokes that were like in his disc when he was coming down, so his bike sounded like absolute shit. And then Walker had smoked his mech, so his mech was like hanging on by a thread. I think I was the only one who was, my bike was unscathed. But yeah, so it was like we were nursing the next 2 stages, and then we made it to the pit stop, got full rebuild bikes, and we were good to go for the second half of the day. But even with like all those mares, we were leading by 26 seconds after stage 3, I think.
Yeah, well, that
Which,
first stage sounds like an absolute disaster, and you guys were only for 3 seconds off Canada, who won that stage, and you guys were second. So yeah, not bad.
So yeah, it was like quite a surprise, as you can imagine, when we came down. People were like, "Oh, you had a good stage," and we're like, "No, we didn't." But everyone else, I think everyone had a bit of a mare, and no one apart from Canada had like 3 top 10 riders. Like a lot of
Nah, it was a real mix of, like, I was looking through the teams, and I was always pretty confident that you guys would do well, because I was like looking at the teams of 3, and I was sort of like, man, you guys in Canada are definitely the strongest teams in terms of top 10 riders.
100%.
Yeah, and I think that's like so key, is just not having a weakness. And what was even better is that we all have different strengths. Like Eddie's like a classic downhill guy. When it's rough and loose, he's really good. When it's like kind of flat and a bit janky, I'm quite good and can pedal and carry speed. And then Walker like can just, on like the fast kind of not so steep, but like the pump track sort of stuff, or the flow track stuff, he's insane. So we knew those strengths, and we had no egos. Like we didn't let our ego get in the way of anything. So we just like knew what we'd be good at. We led those stages, and then we just happily sat on the wheel for the other stages.
How did you have sort of a plan for tactics? Did you play to those strengths in every sort of scenario, or did you look at the track and say, "Oh yeah, when you rode it, you were faster," or that sort of thing? And what's the benefit of those tactics, like someone leading?
Yeah, so like the benefit of those tactics, I reckon, is so say we all did an individual race, like a normal EWS.
Yep.
And like say, I was 5th on some pedally stage, and then Eddie was 5th on some downhill stage. If you combine those results together, you're going to have a way better overall. You're basically taking everyone's best stage, so you have 3 chances of having a good time.
Yeah.
So if you can predict who's going to be the fastest on the stage, it's you can hold someone's wheel even if they're quicker than you.
Yeah.
So we knew like we'd send Eddie first on the downhill stage, and he would do it quicker than Matt or I would do it if we were racing individually. But we knew we could hold his wheel, so that kind of gave us 3 seconds, free time. But the key, like you said, is you have to be able to predict who's going to be fast where. Because if you get it wrong, you could even do it backwards. You could even lose time. But we knew pretty soon, like we had an idea just from like looking at the course map, and the boys had ridden quite a few of the tracks before. And then as soon as we did practice, we knew like, oh yeah, that's a Charlie stage, or that's an Eddie stage, or that's a Walker stage. And the first 2 long ones, like KB was saying, that one was 41 minutes. So I think it's like 14 minutes each, and your time's added together. So we had 2 of those. It's kind of 2 15-minute stages.
The first 2 stages were huge.
Yeah, so those we split them in half, and because when you're following, like, it's actually, you don't have to concentrate, you just zone out, and it's amazing. Like you still have to focus a lot, but it's a different sort of riding, and you get a bit of draft as well from them, and so that was like our plans, like go hard. First person ends up pedaling way more because they're breaking the wind, and they're also having to like read the track, whereas you can see them braking, so you can hit every corner slightly better than they can hit it. So you don't have to pedal so much. So then, like, but after doing that for 7 minutes, after leading harder than you would normally, even if you were racing individually, then you pull over and let someone else go.
Yeah.
And you just have to hold their wheel. So, like, yeah, we thought a lot of people were calling us out saying that we were overthinking it, but it obviously paid off. So, yeah.
Seemed to work.
That's a real cool aspect to like.
But yeah, so
because I guess at a world championships generally, you know, you've got your downhillers and your cross country guys, and whilst they are on a team, they're still individuals. Whereas like the cool thing about the trophy is that you do act as a team, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, because it matters. Every, you know, you've got to work together to get the best possible time.
Yeah, every time matters, and like, oh, it was so much fun because I always race with those guys anyway, like because we start next to each other in the normal individual races, but like to actually be fighting against other people with your friends was so cool because like you're trying to help each other even more than usual, and like even the highs are even higher and the lows are even lower, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm surprised this kind of thing hasn't maybe like not so much caught on, but I'm surprised no one's really tried to do it outside of this race, or like I haven't really seen it, because it would be fun to turn up for like like a race in New Zealand and do it as a team like that.
Yeah,
it'd be quite cool.
Yeah, it'd be so fun. I think it's a shame that it's not more common. And we were saying when we were talking about it with boys, like this is literally the funnest concept, and there's talk of it like being not the future of enduro, but something that we need more of in the sport, I think.
Yeah. Me and Red Dog were discussing after this race that they should do a downhill Des Nations, and we came to the conclusion that you have to have 3 riders. One has to ride a 26-inch bike, one has to ride 27.5, and one has to ride 29. That was how we thought the downhill Des Nations should go.
Yeah, that would be sick.
Yeah.
Like, you just have to get like different sized people so that their bike kind of suits them.
Or if you have like,
we're like
Sam Hill on the team, he goes down to the 26 because he was like king on that back in the day.
Oh, he was 26.
I was literally just about to say, get Sam Hill on an Iron Horse Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then what would happen for Australia? Like if you've got her, I guess Troy would go pretty good on a 27.5.
Yeah.
And then
Moya on a 29.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, through the size bracket, each as they get taller, just move them up on the bigger wheel bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Man, that would actually be so cool. But I think there's definitely room for something like that sort of team enduro racing, eh?
Yeah, I think it'd be quite cool. It'd be kind of cool to do something like that, but have it so you have one elite, one under 21, and one female or something like that, and mix it up as well.
Yeah, they do a team relay.
Mixed category.
And they do a team relay in the XC World Champs. I don't know if you guys probably would have watched that at some point.
Yeah. No, we watched some XC. We're XC guys.
Yeah.
We've got into that stuff,
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good watching. But yeah, so even then though, they're not racing at the same time. Like that's what makes this so cool is you're sharing every trail with one another, and the experiences and like the drama and the crashes. You get to see it because you're right there. Like when someone comes down and tells you about their crash is one thing, but to actually be on track with them when they're doing it is like next level.
Oh, it'd be loose. There'd be some pretty wild moments, I bet.
Yeah, like
Do you think...
I'm never ever gonna forget just coming around and seeing Eddie's bike in a tree. It was like the highlight, but also quite scary.
Do you think that when
did you see Eddie, or was had he just disappeared?
No, you kind of see like head like kind of looking around and like scrambling down this bank, but I didn't really stop to look, to be honest. And I when I crashed into my tree, like 2 minutes up the track, all the sweat from my helmet got pushed
Oh,
out of the helmet pads and into my goggles, so I couldn't
Oh
actually
no.
see anything, and had to take my goggles off like a bit further down. But at that point, I was just struggling to see through my sweat-filled goggles, so I didn't really see any.
I can see why you guys thought you'd cooked it after that first stage. It sounded like anything that could go wrong did go wrong.
Yeah, so much happened. I even like took my goggles off and put them around my handlebar, but I put them on the right hand side, so they were shifting my gears. So like every time I'd go to pedal, my gears would skip because it would be halfway between two gears.
Oh.
oh no.
Because you're running AXS, aren't you? So it'd be pretty easy for the goggles to actually hit it and knock it enough to shift.
Yeah, it was like one way. It was way easier for it to go than the other or something. So it kept shifting me up or down or something. But yeah, well, that was horrible.
Oh
Could have
man,
easily
what a
snapped a
time!
chain.
What a memory!
Yeah, it's good memory.
How was the
That's
do
awesome.
after that? I mean, that's a New Zealand World Championship. That's pretty good. That's pretty good stuff. Not everyone gets to experience that. Was it a bit of
Rumor,
did things kick off?
rumor has it finale's still cleaning up.
Yeah, that was the do was awesome. It was a good day to be a Kiwi. We literally finished the race, went straight to the bar. Once we handed on our timing chips, and we were just on the Aperol spritzers, and then they called us up for the podium, so we just went up still with Aperol spritzers. We weren't actually allowed them on the podium, but we had them like right there. We just came from the bar to the podium, just walked like 20 meters, and then we went to this dinner in like this little Italian restaurant that was like quite a small room with just two long tables, and it was just one table for us and then one table for some Italians, and then they would just bring out like these 1 liter glass vases of rosé, and it was like $30, all you can eat, all you can drink rosé. They must have just had like a big tank of rosé at the back that they were
Rosé
filling up
all
these
day.
jugs with. And then what I don't even know. It was, it was a good do.
That's fantastic. That sounds great.
But no one got arrested. No one got in any trouble. Yeah, it was Italian pasta and rosé. I remember
That's
bumping
another
into
pretty
Eddie.
impressive result that no one got arrested or in trouble.
Yeah, that's probably the most impressive. Really, it was things were heating up for a minute there, but then everything came under control. Everyone's getting older and wiser.
Yeah.
Slowly. Well, to finish out the podcast, I think Red Dog, you've got a question or something you'd like Charlie to share, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. But one last serious question though, Chaz. The win.
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to help personally, like in terms of, you've had some podiums previously, but now you've won. Do you think that unlocks the door for a personal achievement next year? You reckon? A win, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I mean, that's always the dream. It's just like putting it together on the day. But now, like in that race, the race before, I had that stage win, and it was kind of more of a downhill stage. So I was quite happy that it wasn't another uphill stage that people were giving me shit about. And then in this race in finale, I also had a stage win. Like if you look at the individual results,
Yeah.
so that was like kind of backed up that confidence a bit. And then just to have that feeling that you can do it, and like we were the best is awesome. But then if you look at the times, like none of us were the fastest of the day, but like as an average of 3, we were the fastest.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually,
so I think I was like 4th or 5th.
Are you?
Okay. Yeah. Still damn good.
What's that? Sorry, KB.
Another serious question from my side. Are you back with Specialized next year?
Yeah.
or two?
Yeah.
Is there something still to be announced?
Yeah. Nah. Yeah. Same again next year.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Nice.
So
That's good.
stoked on that. It's like this. Yeah, the setup's working so well, and yeah, I've got Tom, my mechanic, who
Yeah.
is like an absolute game changer, and
Epic.
yeah, so I'm stoked to do the same program again. It's going to be good. And yeah, to kind of continue
Yeah, it
from Red
sounds
Dog's
like
question.
you-
Sorry, it sounds.
I was going to say, it sounds like you got a pretty good setup with Tom, and obviously good bikes and everything. So yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. Yeah, the old Kiwi saying, everything's working really well. And yeah, Red Dog, like you were saying, does it set it like, help me with confidence to have a result next year? Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, the confidence is there, and like to be able to win stages is like for me huge because then you just start to believe in yourself a bit more.
Yeah.
And you actually know like you can do it if you put it all together. So now it's just like figuring out how to put it together and how to be good on the stuff that I'm not good at. So like I know there's certain stages where I'm as good as anyone, but then I know there's stages where I'm not, where I'm like, there's 10 guys that are faster than me on that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's working on that stuff. And then also just staying strong and good at the stuff that I can already do well.
Yeah, nice. I guess it gives you a goal, right? You can win in certain situations. How do you achieve that in the ones where you're not as good? So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's all learning, but that just the second half of the season has given me heaps of confidence and also motivation. Like we were saying earlier, like when you're doing well, you want to do better. There's always like that next step to gain, and it's almost achievable because it's not too far away.
No, awesome.
Marginal gains.
Yeah, the 1%ers.
Exactly.
But yeah, I need to
Red Dog.
do some more downhill. That's the goal for the summer.
Nice. That's what
Yeah,
we like to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought you boys
Red
would be on
Dog,
board with that.
do you want to round the podcast out with your question there, Red Dog?
Yeah, absolutely. Big time podcast fan. Comes in under a different name usually, but Tom Bradshaw. Obviously you know Tom. From many different,
Yeah, unfortunately.
occasions. But what is your best / worst / most incriminating Tom Bradshaw story?
Yeah. Very good question. Yeah, well, obviously, like I said before, Bradshaw got me into the EWS by some shifty email work with Natalie. So I kind of owe everything to him. But I'm not going to give him everything. I might buy him a couple of beers or something. But my most
Don't give him too
incriminating
much credit.
No, exactly. You don't want him to get that head of his any bigger. But yeah, story, definitely the first thing that springs to mind is when he almost died. I think he might have even, I don't know if he died or not, but he fully went cold turkey on us in Ainza in Spain. It was my first time racing with him after he'd come back from that shoulder injury we were talking about. And yeah, he went way too hard, overheated, got heat stroke, and was vomiting inside his full face mid stage. And then he wouldn't pull out. He was irrational because when people get heat stroke, they kind of they're not very clear about what they want to do, and he wouldn't let us tell him to pull out. So he just kept going, kept overheating, and then it got to the point where he was walking up a hill, taking off all his clothes, and I was walking behind him, picking up his clothes and carrying all his kit and my kit up the hill, and then he fell over at the top and was just lights out, full, we thought he was dead. He was full lights out, eyes in the back of his head, he was still kind of just breathing, and we were like, oh my god, this is so bad. So we were me and Sam Shaw straight away ran for help, and we were in Spain, so we couldn't speak Spanish, so we were running. We ran to this. We found this ambulance like down the 4 drive track a ways, and tried to tell them what was going on. And eventually, after a while of convincing them that this was like a serious thing, they came and got him and put him like on a drip and got him in the back of the ambulance, took him straight to hospital. But he was like, yeah, it was terrifying. He was like pretty close to, not being all right.
Yeah.
And it took him a few weeks to recover
He's
from that
told
one.
me
but-
that story.
yeah,
Yeah, he's told me that story, and it definitely sounds way worse when it's coming from someone who was on the outside. he
Yeah,
made it sound
I'd-
bad, but from your account sounds way worse.
yeah. Like we actually thought we were seeing one of our best mates like pass away. Like it was terrifying, and we were doing
Yeah.
everything we could, like trying to like drip water onto him and like fan him to cool him down and all this stuff. But like the only thing you can do at that point is like go to hospital, because the part of your brain that controls your temperature like gets confused. It doesn't know if it's heating you up or cooling you down. It doesn't know what it's supposed to be doing. So, yeah, and like your cells start to denature at like those temperatures. So basically, what that means is like anytime your heart rate gets up in like the week or two following a big heat stroke, you get like you get incredibly sick, because all these dead cells are kind of like moving around your bloodstream and stuff.
Oh wow. No way.
Jesus.
So like, yeah, I remember coming home and telling my dad, like I didn't think too much of it at the time. Well, like I was scared, but I didn't really know any better. So I just like, 2 days later he seemed to be fine. So I was like, oh, okay, he's fine now. And I came back and told my dad, and my dad was like, he's a doctor. He was shocked by it. He's like, oh, like that sounds like it was really, really close to, ending a different way. So that's my harrowing Tom Bradshaw story. And, you guys know him well, and you also know how he like always pushes everything to 100%. Like he was doing that Everest on those
Oh yeah.
gnarly technical trails, and like he just will literally go until he drops. Usually he like rides 12 hours a day for a week, and then he'll, suddenly be sick for a week because he's just ridden himself into the ground. So he's like the sort of guy to not give up, which is such a good quality to have. But when you have heat stroke, it's not a good quality.
Not at all.
So I thought we were going to finish this out with some like funny story of him, doing something that nearly got him arrested or something, not him nearly dying, but there you go. We've still got him around, so at least we've got that.
Yeah, we do. And
Yeah.
in fairness,
Yeah,
heat
I got
burning
half it.
is not his strong suit. I've seen him, as Charlie said, he took his clothes off when he got too hot. I've seen him eat a mild curry and have to strip the top layer and sort of have a siesta as well. So doesn't take much to push him over the edge.
Yeah. Nah, I actually got half of that story, and I thought
man.
this isn't really a light-hearted story, but hopefully the listeners can at least learn something. And if they ever see someone with heat stroke, get them to the hospital straight away.
Get serious.
Yeah, that took us.
Oh,
took me
man.
for a
Well, that's
serious turn there.
that's heat stroke lessons with Charlie Murray, the podcast edition. So
Yeah, literally the
just want
hot
to say,
seat.
yeah, in the
Come
hot
full
seat.
circle.
Thanks for joining us, mate. Oh no, we have. This is usually when it's time to wrap the podcast up, when it gets like this. But thank you very much for joining us, Charlie. It's been great to hear about your start to racing enduro and where it's led to so far. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you at some races this summer, no doubt.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'll be at some of those downhills. Hopefully, holding my skills. And yeah, thanks Red Dog and KB for having me on. And we might have to, do this once a year to catch up on what's been happening.
I reckon it'd be good to do a mid-season one maybe next year and see how it's going midway through the year. It's just trying to align time zones is the hard part, but I'm sure we can make it work.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, when there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet.
All right. Thanks again, mate, and we'll sign off.
Thanks, Charlie.
Sweet. Thanks, guys.
What's up?
I come
from the land of down under. I can't hear you. What was that? I can't hear you. I let it be like John Lennon, the anti-serum that you don't get for poisonous venom. Read the label carefully, I'm only here for the show. I love hip-hop too much to let you feed my ego. In the key of F-U-C-K, Y-O-U. I mean, why do I owe you if you're not helping me through? I mean, why do I owe you if you're obstructing my view? Success is not my castle, just a house that's brand new. You see, I irrigate the culture, give it shape like a sculpture. Still complicated, rock like I'm supposed to be. L-I-T-Z like my DJ. Rock to the rhythm like you rock to what he plays.